Rabbi Meir Kahane, a member of the Knesset, Israel's parliament. They are afraid of Kahane. They'll do anything they can to stop him. When it comes to Kahane, the end always justifies the means. A media blackout, boycott, arrests and slander. If Kahane's your target, anything goes. Forget democracy. Forget freedom of speech. Just get Kahane. Why are they so afraid of Kahane? They know that the Israeli public is confused and helpless, and that only Kahane tells the truth and speaks directly to the people. This vast, lush, fruitful, and well-cultivated valley is situated in the heart of the state of Israel. No, it's not the fabled Jezreel Valley, where the Chalutzim, the Jewish pioneers, came to build their homeland. This is the Bet Netofa Valley in the Galilee, which belongs entirely to Arabs. Only Arabs farm this land. Not one dunam belongs to the Jews. The towns and villages we see below us are all Arab. There are barely any Jewish settlements in this region. Jews are afraid to travel in the Galilee, even in broad daylight. In December 1987, during Hanukkah, there were anti-Jewish riots in all the Galilee Arab villages, as well as in the Israeli cities of Haifa, Acre, Ramleh, Lod, and even Jaffa, in the heart of the Tel Aviv metropolis, all of which are well within the lines, the boundaries of the pre-1967 State of Israel. The Arab rioters shouted, "Palestine is our homeland, and the Jews are our dogs. Itbah al-Yahud, slaughter the Jews."
The question arises, how many Arabs will there be in Israel tomorrow, and in 5 years, and in 10 years? They are citizens, they vote. How many Arabs will sit in the Knesset so that in 5 or 10 years it will be impossible to form a government without the Arabs? We are speaking of the destruction of Israel not through bullets but through Arab babies. The Galilee at this moment, right at this moment, not in 5 years, the Galilee at this moment has a majority of Arabs. It is our Northern Ireland. The cities of Israel such as Jaffa and Akko and Lida and Ramleh, Jerusalem, are cities that are becoming Arab cities. We are speaking of the destruction of Israel through babies, through demography, through democracy. The question is, will there be a Jewish state in 10 years?
After the Holocaust, after the destruction of European Jewry, 1/3 of the entire Jewish people, we Jews arose and declared, never again. We established the State of Israel for Jews to live in peace and security. But is there security for the Jews in Israel? Hundreds of Israeli Jewish citizens were killed by Arabs solely because they were Jews. Children were slaughtered and dismembered. Women were burned to death. Soldiers, young men and women alike, were kidnapped, raped, tortured and murdered by Arabs, some from the territories and some Israeli Arabs. And the murderers? They were sentenced to life imprisonment, sat in jail for a year or two, and then went home to Judea, Samaria, or Gaza when Israel freed 1,150 Arab terrorists in exchange for 3 Jewish prisoners of war. During Hanukkah on November 4th, 1986, 2 sisters, Esther and Nurit Polak, were on their way home on the number 18 bus in Jerusalem. They never got there. The bus was blown up by an Arab terrorist. The 2 girls and another 4 Jewish passengers were killed. The remainder were seriously wounded and will remain crippled their entire lives. On Shabbat, young Eliyahu Amedi was on the way to his yeshiva in the old city of Jerusalem. He was slaughtered by 3 murderers before the eyes of scores of Arab passers-by. Of course, no one saw or heard anything. Since 1967, the list of murder victims has grown steadily. Danny Katz, a 14-year-old boy. Hadas Kedmi, a soldier. David Manos, a reserve soldier. Daphna Carmon, a soldier. Esther Ohana, a civilian passerby. Moshe Tamam, a reserve soldier. Albert Buchris, a farmer. Zalman Abulnik, a Soviet Jewish immigrant. Rami Haba, an 8-year-old boy. Yoshua Salome, a yeshiva student. Ofra Moses, a young woman burnt to death with her 6-year-old son and unborn child, and many, many more.
Jews are being murdered every single week in the state of Israel, a sovereign state which for 2,000 years we dreamed about. And we said that someday we would have a state and there would be no longer fear or pogroms or Jews murdered. But Jews are murdered every single week. Jews are afraid today to walk in the old city of Jerusalem, our capital. You've seen pictures of Jews murdered and of the families of those who were murdered. It did not begin in 1967. It has nothing to do with the boundaries of 1967. 60 years ago in the 1920s, they murdered Jews. In 1929, in one day, 67 Jews were murdered in Hebron. What did they want then? Who was inciting them then? Between 1936 and 1938, 510 Jews were murdered. Men, women, and children. What did they want in 1930s? In 1947, when the United Nations passed a partition plan, and the Arabs said no, and they went to war, and 6,000 Jews died here, 1% of the entire population. What did they want then? In those days, they went out into the streets and shouted the Arabic slogan, Itbaq al-Yahud, slaughter the Jew. That's what we heard this year when the Arabs of Israel, not the territories, rose and attacked Jews in Jaffa and Elida and Wadi Ara and in the Galilee. They want to kill us, they want to wipe us out, and it is up to each and every Jew to rise up and say, never again.
Jerusalem, capital of Israel, the dream of our ancestors, realized in our day. Jerusalem was liberated, reunited, and declared the eternal capital of the State of Israel. Jerusalem, home of the Knesset, the seat of government, site of the Old City, the Western Wall, the Temple Mount. Jerusalem, a perfect united city. Indeed. 20 years ago, Mota Gur, then commander of the paratroopers, stood on the Temple Mount and cried ecstatically into his radio, "The Temple Mount is in our hands." I'm standing here in 1987, 20 years later, and I ask myself, is the Temple Mount in our hands? 6 Knesset members visiting the Temple Mount require the protection of 800 security troops. The Temple Mount in our hands? What a travesty. I'm now standing on Mount Scopus. When I was a child in New York, we would sing the well-known Hebrew song, Greeting Jerusalem, from the top of Mount Scopus. Jerusalem, city of peace. What kind of peace is this? They kill Jews here. Jews are afraid to walk in their own capital. They are stabbed, stoned. The Jews live in fear. Is this the Jerusalem for which we yearned? This isn't Israel. It's Palestine. Arabs, Arabs, and more Arabs. What will happen in another 10 years? How many Arabs will be living here? In 1967, we had a golden opportunity. When we liberated the city, we could have removed them all. They expected us to slaughter them, but there was no need for physical harm. Just transfer. Out. We missed our chance. It was a serious mistake for all generations. Jerusalem, a Jewish city, the Jewish capital. But Jews are afraid to walk here today. In the evening, there are no Jews here. They're afraid. Jews are stoned and stabbed. But the Arabs are not afraid. Tell me, who are the conquerors and who are the conquered here? Will this city be Yerushalayim or Al-Quds? We have to decide now, because time is running out. The Jewish daughter, Bas Israel, die Jiddische Tochter, was always a symbol of purity and morality. There were never any Jewish prostitutes in Morocco, Tunisia, Poland, Hungary, Yemen, and Iran. What happened in the state of Israel? The secular society which developed here has imitated the most degenerate aspects of Western culture and has induced increasing deterioration, exacerbated by Jewish-Arab relations. Young, innocent girls coming to the city are easy prey for the Arab boyfriend, or pimp, who sometimes masquerades as a Jew. And so demoralization begins, sometimes ending in conversion to Islam. While the Jews are afraid to be seen in Judea, Samaria, and Gaza, the so-called territories, and even in Arab towns of pre-1967 Israel, the Arabs are free to go anywhere in Israel, to sit in coffee houses or spend time by the seaside. Nothing stands in their way.
On any given night in Israel, in any of the major cities, in every coffee house you will find thousands of Arabs throughout the country sitting with Jewish girls. In many cases, the Jewish girl doesn't even know that this is an Arab. The Arab Ibrahim will say to her that his name is Avi, Avraham. The Arab Musa will say that he is Moshe. And that's how it begins, and we don't even know about it, we who sit in the exile. The tragedy of Jewish girls. 4,000 Jewish women today married to Muslims. And bear in mind that in order to marry a Muslim, it means that she had to convert to Islam. 4,000 Jewish women today who converted to Islam and who are living today in our villages with their Arab husbands and their Jewish children who are Arabs. The prostitutes of Israel are overwhelmingly Jewish, and the pimps are overwhelmingly Arabs. And this is the Jewish state. For this we dreamed for 2,000 years. And the tragedy within the tragedy is that the overwhelming majority of these girls are Sephardic Jews who come from communities that for 1,500 years preserve their Jewishness in the exile. And that which the Muslims could not do to them for 1,500 years in the exile, Jews did to them in the state of Israel. Is this the kind of a state that we want? Is this the kind of a state that we are speaking about?
This is a secular high school in Israel. Nice kids, no? Do they know what it means to be a Jew? Do they know anything more about Judaism than a Jewish public school student in the United States? Ignorance is the downfall of our youth. Today, some even refuse to serve in the Israel Defense Forces. They're unmotivated because they lack background.
There would be no Arab problem if there would not be a Jewish problem. What is it that prompts 160 soldiers and reservists to say that they will not serve in the territories? What is it that suddenly prompts high school students to write to the Minister of Defense that they will not serve in certain areas? What is the tragedy of a Jewish youth that doesn't know what being Jewish is, or what being Zionist is? It's the tragedy of a secular education in Israel, which is bankrupt, which does not give values. The average Sabbath does not know who he is and what he is, because someone who has no past can never have a future. And so those who threw away the Jewish past and Judaism can never have a Zionism. And this is the tragedy inside Israel. Suddenly youngsters, drugs and drinking and rock and roll and nothing Jewish. Is it strange, therefore, that on a kibbutz, a youngster, an Israeli, meets a volunteer girl from Sweden or from Germany and marries her? Why not? He doesn't know what being Jewish is. Is it any wonder, therefore, that tens of thousands of young Jews leave the country and hundreds of thousands dream of leaving the country? We took away Judaism. The secular Zionists took away Judaism, and in the end they destroyed Zionism. I don't want a state of Jews. I want a Jewish state.
Throughout the world, wherever there were Jews, the economy would flourish. Only in Israel do we find a failing economy. Why? Because socialism and bureaucracy have destroyed the good. Instead of achieving financial independence, the state of Israel has been in crisis since it was established. The average Israeli can ill afford housing. Cars are astronomically priced. Today, towards the end of the 20th century, telephones are still a luxury. Taxes are skyrocketing, and people aren't motivated to work. Isn't there a solution?
The remarkable thing is that the Jews have made every country in which they have lived rich, except Israel. And what is the reason? Because if you want to open a store in America, you find an empty store, and you open a store, and you go into business, and that's it. In Israel, it's an adventure. You need a permit and a license to get the permit, and the permit to get the license to get the permit, and taxes and indirect taxes, and taxes such as only the devil could have invented. They choke you. You can't breathe here. You can't make a profit. And therefore, the same Israeli who in Israel never worked goes to America and works 14 hours a day, 15 hours a day. Why? Because there he can make a profit. An American Zionist who has money and who wants to help Israel by building a factory, he doesn't want to build a factory in Taiwan or in Singapore. He comes to Israel and he goes to the 7 circles of Jewish hell. They drive him crazy. So instead he ends up building a factory in Taiwan. Israel needs free enterprise, capitalism. Let people make a living. Don't raise taxes, cut taxes. Let them make a living, and then they'll pay taxes. And then you'll see a country which will become an economic superpower. That is our pledge. Free enterprise, capitalism. Let the Jew breathe.
Kahane's movement is working non-stop, with activities all over the country. Kahane supporters help guard the roads, distribute publicity materials, and arrange large-scale rallies. Last December's Arab riots in Israel drove home the point that Kahane's ideas are true and correct. His constituency is growing. The Arab threat to Israel is increasing, and the moment of truth is approaching rapidly.
Do you think that I hate Arabs? I don't hate Arabs. It has nothing to do with hating Arabs. What it has to do is with the tragic and the painful contradiction between a Jewish state and Western democracy. You want Western democracy? Fine, then you have to allow the Arabs the right to be equal, totally equal to the Jewish people, and have the right to have enough babies and be the majority and vote Israel out of existence. Is that what you want? Of course it is not. Is that what Zionism wants? Of course it is not. We want a Jewish state. And the Arabs, quite understandably, do not want a Jewish state. How many Arabs can get up and happily sing Hatikva, their national anthem, with the words Nefesh Yehudi Homiya, the soul of a Jew yearning? How many Arabs want to be a Jew? Why do we play games with them? It is precisely the leftists and the liberals who have contempt for the Arabs. They think that if we will give them higher living standards, an indoor toilet, they'll be good Arabs. What contempt! You can't buy a person's national pride with an indoor toilet, with higher living standards. The Arab is a proud person. And the only Jew that understands the Arab is a Jew who is a proud person. I understand the Arabs. They understand me. That's why they must go.
Eugene Sockett, dentist and Jewish activist from Connecticut and a member of the National Rifle Association, came to Israel in 1971. He served in key public relations positions for the Israel Foreign Ministry and Ministry of Tourism, and trained the sharpshooter squads in the Israel Defense Forces.
Finally, in '86, a friend of mine came to me and said, "Gene, your program is finished. You have no more work to do. It's time to cross the Rubicon and to become publicly a supporter of Rabbi Meir Kahane." And that's what I am now. And the only thing that I regret is that I didn't do it earlier. Because today, and I've been through all the Jewish organizations, from the American Jewish Committee to the B'nai B'rith to just a slew of them, Congress, all of them I work with. And the only man today who tells the truth, and I believe has an important message to say, is Rabbi Meir Kahane and the Kach movement, because no one else is really saying it how it is. And this is a movement which is not afraid to say to an American audience, the most important thing you can do is to come to Israel, an aliyah. That's the most important thing. Very few of them say that because they know that that may irritate you. But this movement doesn't lie to the Jewish people. If you're not coming, then at least get active in Jewish affairs, stand up against that establishment. We don't have 20 more years to do what I did, which is to sit back and wait. You don't have 20 years now, because all of that Arab propaganda money is starting to sprout, slowly but surely. You've got to become active. You've got to become an active supporter for the Kach movement, because it's the only movement today that is saying the truth. And you're not to be afraid to do it, because Meir Kahane speaks not with forked tongue. And I believe that that is the way to go. And money to be donated to the movement, and political action and everything else that you can do is important. This is not an organization like some of those Jewish organizations that I went to, that you walk into an office and they have thick paneling and 2-inch carpets on the floor, and that's where your money goes. This is not the same. This is an organization that is fighting for Jewish survival and telling the truth of what's really happening. And I believe that Meir Kahane is the man, and this is the organization. So I can only leave you with this last message. Cross the Rubicon. It's time.
Today, Kahane is in the Knesset, but he's alone. Next time, with your help and the support of Israeli voters, the Kach movement will have at least 15 Knesset members, with an eye towards the Knesset majority and the prime ministership. Am Yisrael Chai.